ידיד נפש, אב הרחמן, משוכב דק, ארץ עונה, ירוץ עבדה, כמו היה, ישתחווה. וצוף וחוטה ירבו ידידותך מינוף וצוף וחוטה
Shabbat Shalom. It is such a pleasure to be with each of you as we welcome Shabbat, as we welcome one another in our sacred virtual community. I see that I have us flipped on the screen. I am Rabbi Aaron Meyer, and I'm excited to be here with Eliana Light, who's going to be leading us in song, leading us in prayer, beginning right now. We're so excited to have you.
Shalom, Rabbi, and shalom, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you. We start by settling into the Shabbat spirit by taking a big deep breath, landing into this place, landing into this time, feeling the warmth of Shabbat rush over us, knowing that even as we are alone in our homes, we are together in community, and singing this nigun, this wordless melody, which you'll catch on to quite quickly, I think. Just like that. Let's do that again.
Natalie and Bonnie and Will and Nancy, we're excited to welcome you as we begin our Shabbat evening service. And I'm so delighted to welcome Eliana Light to be with us this evening, to be guiding us in song, in prayer, and later in a conversation. You're based in Durham, I understand?
Yes, Durham, North Carolina.
One of the
amazing?
advantages, it is, one of the advantages of this time, one of the few advantages of this time is getting to connect with people outside of the Pittsburgh area. And I'm excited to as well welcome those who are here. Stan and April are going to lead us in our candles and kiddush in just a moment, though I know their family is flung to different parts of the states, and I know that we're excited this evening to welcome folks from New Hampshire and our Floridians and our Seattleites, our Californians, and everywhere in between. The blessing as we light these lights, as we bring some extra light and warmth into this world, can be found in your prayer books, first on page 2 and then on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lihadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat.
And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. The heaven and the earth were finished, and all their array. On the seventh day, God finished the work that God had been doing, and God ceased on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. And God blessed the seventh day and declared it holy, because on it God ceased from all the work of creation that God had done. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei puri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kadsho, b'ahava uvratzon, hinhilanu, zikaron l'maseh, v'reishit, ki hu yom tehillah, l'mikrae kodesh, zecher l'tziat mitzrayim, Kivanu v'acharta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim, v'shabbat kodshecha, b'yahava uv'ratzon, hinhaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mikadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Amen. I have to say, that puppy looked so serene and beautiful. Maybe it was just my angle, and I know maybe we're not supposed to anthropomorphize pets, but I have to say, that dog looked so calm. I could kind of see a smile on the edges of the dog's face, so relaxed, eyes closed and serene. And that's kind of how I want to feel when I go into Shabbat. I want to feel like I'm being taken care of. There's so much in this world that we do ourselves, and even though we know that we are interdependent, we rely on each other, we also live in a world and in a country where we're expected to take care of ourselves and be independent, do everything on our own. Then we know we need each other, and we know that we need special times like Shabbat where we can rest and be carried by someone or something that loves us. So I invite you over the course of this service to relax, to imagine that you are like that puppy that is being carried by someone that loves you. You don't need to be anywhere else. You don't need to do anything else. You are enough right as you are. And even though tonight we're going to be using some melodies that you might not already know, this is a chance for you to lean into them and to sing them anyway. Because the words in the Siddur, in my opinion, those are not our prayers. That's our liturgy, our incredible liturgy that we have so much to learn from. And it can help us get to our prayers. But our prayers are the things that come out of our hearts, the way that we sing, the way that we close our eyes, the way that we connect and sink back into that which is greater than ourselves. That's what our prayer is. In fact, in our first prayer, of Shabbat in the Yedid Nefesh. It is the author's longing to connect with that which is greater than ourselves. On page 332, I know that's far back in the book, but don't worry. You don't need many words for this. The first line of the second stanza of Yedid Nefesh says, Hadur na'eh ziv ha'olam. Brilliance of the universe. Isn't that such a beautiful name for the Holy One? Nafshi cholat ahavatach. My soul is sick for your love. The only kind of sickness I can abide in this world is that yearning, that desire to be connected, to be one. I know I'm feeling that these days. So we're going to sing that line. And in English, we're going to sing, I am yearning for your love. Because there is a part of each of us, I think, that yearns for that connection. And there's a part for you. Whenever I lean in like this, that's your time to repeat after me. I call that the expectant song leader, lean in. We'll be using that a lot tonight. But for now, just take a deep breath, settle in, know that this is your place.
It is such a pleasure to have Eliana Light with us this evening, leading us, guiding us as we sing, as we celebrate, as we make our way into Shabbat together. And I'm excited for the opportunity to pray with each of you. We continue doing so on page 14 in our Sidurim, page 14 in our prayer books on the bottom of the page.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. And I love seeing all of those comments pop up. I don't know how it happens. I really don't. But I'm glad that it does, because it's good to know that you're here singing and celebrating Shabbat with us. Or as Ruach Lat Tzaddik, we have the ability to plant light in our hearts for those dark times. So let's plant some light together. we plant light in our hearts for later because we know that these are difficult times. These are dark times. These are cold times, especially up in Pittsburgh. It's still cold here, but probably not as cold. These are dark and cold times, and so whenever we get a taste of that joy, of that happiness, of that love, we tuck it away inside of us and remember that those feelings weren't actually caused by the stimuli that was out there. They were inspired by, induced by, but the feelings arose within ourselves. I love imagining the ancients of Svat running out into the fields to greet Shabbat. That's where the tradition of Kabbalat Shabbat comes from, probably the newest canonized service in our liturgy. Newest, it's still a couple hundred years old, but we think that some of the stuff was back as far back as Sinai, which we read about in this week's Torah portion, but they didn't have Kabbalat Shabbat then. They didn't even really have, any of these tefillot. This is all innovation, everything that we're doing. When the mystics would run out to greet Shabbat in the fields, they ran because they couldn't wait any longer to welcome Shabbat. They had to go out and run and greet Shabbat, which they knew was coming anyway. But they wanted to meet it. And I imagine that when I get to see my friends again, I am going to be like those mystics from Tzfat. I am going to run as far and as fast as I need to meet them even a millisecond quicker than I would have before. So I invite you to close your eyes, settle in, take a deep breath, and imagine, what are you running out to greet this Shabbat? What is a character trait, an attribute, something that the world needs right now, that you need right now, that you don't want to wait for? Is it peace? Is it justice? Is it time for yourself? What is it that you need, that you want to run out and greet? Hold that in your heart as we sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9 of Lachado D on page 20. And I'm going to raise that a little bit for us. Shamor, בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני ים סגולה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקקלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקקלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Breathe in that spirit of Shabbat. We run out to greet Shabbat, and we open the doors for the angels of Shabbat. Again, all of this beautiful poetry, I'm not expecting some dude with wings to show up at my door. In fact, if a dude with wings did show up with my door, I would say, "Get back, dude with wings. Why aren't you standing 6 feet away from me? Where is your mask?" So that's not happening. But just as we ran out to greet Shabbat and welcome in Shabbat, we welcome in Shabbat and the spirit of Shabbat with Shalom Aleichem. So what was it that you thought of that you wanted more of in your life this week? Can you comment? Comment with that. Let us share in that all together as we sing Shalom Aleichem on page 24. Let us know what you're welcoming into your life this week. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharim, Malachei Elyon, Holy Melech, Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem, boachem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech, Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni, barchuni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Yenenai, nai, 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 mi melech, Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem, tzedchem l'shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi melech, Malachei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yenenai, nai, 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 yenenai, nai, 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 Rabbi, I cannot hear you. Now I can.
Pressing the mute button to cut down on the Evelyn noise in the background. Apologies, all part of the reason that I was so excited to bring Eliana to our community is that I was hearing her voice on repeat. She was gracious enough to partner with Emily as Emily was creating her new Doodly Jew series, and words that can be used with Chatzi Kaddish, found on page 26 in your prayer book, were playing continuously in the Meyer house as Emily continued to work and refine this video. It is a beautiful melody, and I hope you all enjoy it as much as I do.
Leila, 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 V'yipar, v'yitromam, v'yitnase, v'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitala, v'yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yipar, v'yitromam, v'yitnase, v'yitadar, v'yitale, v'yitala, min kol birchata, v'shirata.
Beyond all space and time, beyond this face of mine, beyond all the wind chasing after dollar signs, trying to sanctify, I'm trying to anchor my statements to the ancients while still aiming for the birds I win. I say your name, you're not there. I can't place the blame on thin air. I can't erase the rain with my tears. I can't face my pain and my fears without you near. It's so clear that you hear all that I don't say. You were always here before and will remain long after I go away to that which is truly beyond. I offer up this song to that which is truly within. I bring this offering, I know that the flow has nowhere to go. That's its role to move the soul beyond all definition towards the infinite beyond religion.
Min kol
usually end up speechless after that, if I'm being honest. Not because of the music, but because of the beautiful midrashic art interpretation that Rabbi Emily put to it. I mean, the first time I saw that video, I cried, and probably every other time since then. And that's really what led me to your congregation, is I saw Rabbi Emily post some beautiful programs about God in this group on Facebook. And anytime anyone's teaching about God in an interesting way, I want to connect with them. And I'm so, so grateful for that. And that's what it's all about, is going beyond. I realized that the idea that the Holy One is so vast and so wide and contains so many multitudes that our words are insufficient and yet we pray anyway, that was already in my Siddur. That was already there. So as we rise and transition into Ma'ariv, into our evening service, I want us to try to enter Ma'ariv with that spirit of going beyond. Do I have to agree with everything in the Siddur literally? No. The Siddur doesn't agree with everything in itself literally. Do I have to take on these words as my own? No, not if they're not your words. But you can bring your own words. When we say we long for God, we're saying that we long for connection, for communion, for community. What is it that you long for? Bring that in to Ma'ariv tonight. Page 28. Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. We call the Holy One ruler of day into night, ruler of night into day. Awe and amazement at the fact that time passes, which I think we're feeling even more strongly and acutely during this time. Roll into dark, roll into light. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into night. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, kolel or mipnei choshech, kolel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, kolel or mipnei choshech, kolel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. I invite you to find that comfortable place to sit, to roll your shoulders back, feel yourself connected to the earth through your seat or through your feet. Allow your eyes to come to a close or find a place to look at in the distance. Relax your jaw from the roof of your mouth. Begin to follow the pattern of your breath. And I invite you to call to mind someone that loves you, whether they're with us or not, someone whose love is palpable that you can feel. And feel that love. See if you can feel it and imagine it like a glittery, glowing, golden light, maybe that starts from your heart and spreads all around your body. We sing Ahavat Olam. We are loved by a love greater than all of time and space. We have access to that feeling of love whenever and wherever we want. We know that we are worthy of love. So take this prayer before the Shema as a meditation to imagine that whom loves you and to breathe that love in until you are overflowing with love. Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Avatam. Torah u'mitzvot, chokim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Hakein Adonai Eloheinu b'shochveinu ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ויורך ימינו ובהם נגן יומם ולילה באהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל, אוהב עמו ישראל. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. We feel the love in the universe and we respond with love. Let's read together the words which will magically appear on the screen. This translation of Ve'ahavta. Aspire to give love back to the Holy One, to the universe, to each other, with all your heart, soul, and a little extra. Put these words of love on your heart. Speak love with your family, with yourself, at home, each evening and each morning. Bind them on your hand and act with love. Bind them on your eyes and see with love. Put these words on your doors and on your gates. Open them in love. From a place of feeling that love and sharing that love, can we come to a place of freedom? On page 40, I invite you to repeat after me, just as the Israelites repeated after Moses and Miriam at the sea. Mi chamocha, mi chamocha, yes. Ba'elim Adonai, ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha, mi chamocha. Nedar ba'kodem, nedar 42, we move from this freedom to a place of asking for shelter, for realizing, at least for me, that when we call out to the Holy One, we're not saying, oh God, you cosmic giver of treats, I shall have what I ask for. It's a reminder to ourselves of what's important, of calling in the things that we wish to see more of in the world, of creating our own reality. The Hebrew is Hashkivenu Ya Eloheinu, another word for God, the name of calling out the name of breath, Ya. Hashkivenu Ya Eloheinu L'Shalom. And the words, these came to me last May. I sang it as a mantra to myself because of what I was hearing in the news. And it's remained topical. So I hope we can sing these words as mantras to comfort ourselves. Shelter us in place, shelter us in peace, shelter us in love. Shelter us in place, shelter us in peace, shelter us in love, shelter us in love, shelter us in place, shelter us in peace, shelter us in peace, shelter us in love, shelter us in love.
Meaningful service offers us both a connection between keva and kavanah, the fixed liturgy of our tradition, and the spiritual intentions behind it. As we continue on page 44, and then with the central portion of our worship service, we feel both somehow simultaneously. Those traditional words wash over us and connect us to our ancestors, while we remember that each of us has a prayer, a thought, a feel yearning to make its way into the world this Shabbat. We continue now on page 44.
So beautiful. One of the ways we balance keva and kavanah, fixed and spontaneous prayer, which I don't think are dichotomous for me and I think for many of us, is we can sing a melody that we've sung a million times as if we are singing it for the first time. And we can look at the words of our tefillah as if we are looking at them for the first time. On page 44, as we sing the Shamru, I don't have the words in front of me actually, so I hope I remember them. You'll need to help me. You'll sing them at the camera, and I will just get them intuitively from you. The Shamru, sing it as if you've never sung it before. Listen to this amazingly fun melody as if you'd never heard it before, which actually originated at Camp Ramon, Wisconsin, where I worked one summer. These things are not from Sinai. We created them to bring ourselves to say, we have kept the Shabbat. We keep the Shabbat, we have kept the Shabbat. Shabbat is a space of time. The only reason that it means this much to us is that our ancestors have kept it for so many years, and we find our own special, unique, individual ways of keeping Shabbat. It's incredible. Every time I read these tefillot, any tefillah, as as if for the first time, my eyes widen. I become so excited. How is this beautiful wisdom in our tradition? It's amazing. Hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz Shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha'Shabbat Lasot et ha'Shabbat le'dorotam le'v'itolam Uvayom hashvi'i, on the seventh day, Shabbat vayinafash. Shabbat vayinafash, we rested and were resold. Shabbat vayinafash. Veshamru b'nei Yisrael et ha'Shabbat Lasot et ha'Shabbat le'dorotam le'v'itolam. We give ourselves space within our service to say our own prayers, to allow the words of the Siddur to inspire us. What are we grateful for? What are we in awe of? Where do we need help? Those are our core prayers. All of these words in the Siddur are just trying to get us to a place where we can say those things ourselves aloud. So I invite you to rise for the Amidah. We rise with this introduction, and then you're going to have a minute or so of space just for you. Say the words of the Siddur and or say the words of your own heart. One is meant to get you to the other. Be inspired by our Avot ve'imahot, our ancestors. Be inspired by all of the words that we have said over the generations, and then add your own prayer. That is what matters in this moment. I rise in the presence of the infinite. I rise one with all the earth. I rise breathing in blessings. I rise with all the earth. I rise in the presence of the infinite. I rise one with all the earth. I rise breathing in blessings. I rise one with all the earth. I rise. Take a quiet moment just for yourself. Think of all your blessings. Let that feeling flow through you. Be present with whatever words you need to say today. Maybe it's just a feeling. It's just a song. It's not even words. It's beyond words.
May that sense of peace be held in our hearts. May the feelings of connectedness and warmth and friendship and love and wholeness keep our feet planted on this earth, but our minds, our possibilities stretched to the sky. And may that be the prayer as well for those among us who aren't feeling that sense of wholeness, those who are in need of healing, of mind, of body, of spirit. If there are those you are thinking of, for Mishaberach lecholim, our prayer for those who are ill and in need of God's healing presence, humanity's healing touch, I invite you perhaps to say their name aloud at this time. Perhaps, if you're comfortable doing so, to share their name in the comment box, that we might focus our efforts, our prayers, our time and energies, our caring thoughts on them as well. Words of Mishaberach lecholim can be found on page 253. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh Cholim, blessed are you, God, who brings a measure of comfort to those who are ill. Immediately following the conclusion of our service this evening, Eliana Light, who has joined us in song, will join us in conversation a little bit more about her journey to this place in time, how she became a Jewish educator and a Jewish musician, a little bit more about her God project and what we all might need to know as we take this age-old tradition and bring it into the world in which we live. And I'm so excited for that conversation in but a few moments' time. Before we get there, though, we have a few more prayers of that tradition, and I invite you to join us on the bottom of page 282. There we find words of Aleinu L'Shabeach, and we rise in spirit, or we rise in place as we join in prayer.
Aleinu l'shabeach
Words of Kaddish Yatom, our Mourner's Kaddish, can be found in our prayer book on page 294 as we remember those who have gone before us. On this Shabbat, we continue to mourn the passing of Selma Altshul during this period of Shloshim and mark the commemoration of the yahrzeit of Henry Bessinger, Leo Bergsman, Arthur Thomas Blank, Ida Blyman, Lewis Kaplan, Bessie Chasman, Henry Cohen, Ian Francis Cohen, Sarah Jean Cohen, Irwin E. Colton, Louis Ehrenrich, Charles Freed, Abraham First, Richard Glaude, Florence Gollum, Pearl M. Gollum, Irving Hartman, Hedwig Hauser, Anne Hendel, Rose Herbst, Dean J. Hirschfield, Harry Kent, Virginia Klein, Rebecca Kohnberg, Samuel D. Kramer, Joan Langs, Bernard Levin, Harry Levine, Fanny London, Howard Lupovitz, Esther Maiolo, Patricia Mallet, Grace McMillan, Bruce Nadler, Harry Perlman, Harry Presser, Marion Ross, Benjamin Rothberg, Harry Rubin, Maurice Schneirov, Stephen Schwager, Alan Schwartzberg, Henry Swisco, Wilma J. Thompson, Archie Weiss, Sylvia Whitland. Yehei zichronam livracha, may their memories be for us an everlasting blessing. If I have inadvertently mispronounced the name of a loved one, or if there are others of whom you are thinking this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name, to allow their memories to come flooding back as we join together in words of Kaddish Yatom found on page 294. Yid Gadal Vid Kadash Shemei Rabbah Ve'alma Divrach Yirutei V'yamlich Malchutei B'chayechon Uvyomechon Uv'chayei D'chol Beit Yisrael Ba'gala V'zman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Ulamei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitrumam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar V'yitalev V'yithalal Shemei D'kudsha B'richu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechamata, damiran ve'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May God, who makes peace in the highest of heavens, make peace for us and for all who mourn this Shabbat. And together we say, Amen. It has been a true pleasure to be here in virtual sacred space with each of you, to have welcomed Eliana Light into our community first to lead us in song and prayer, and immediately following our service for a conversation. I'm honored and excited to have had you with our community this Shabbat, and I look forward to talking more after our concluding prayer, concluding song.
Yes, this was so beautiful, so much fun. Thank you for all of the comments. I sat down, that's why I'm lower. It really made me feel like I was together with you, even though we are praying across such distances. I really think this time has also brought us together as one global Jewish community. So let us use our voices and sing out in our homes. You know, usually when I travel to congregations, I try to invite them to sing in a group of people, which is really vulnerable and can be difficult. And now I try to get people to sing alone in their homes, which is vulnerable in a different way. But here you are. We sing out when we have big feelings inside us that need to come out, feelings of awe, feelings of gratitude, feelings of wonder. So let us sing those feelings out one last time with Yanai. Yanai. Yananai, 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 yananai.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Eliana, do you need a moment? Do you want me to take you off camera so you can get situated, or are you okay?
No, I'm good. I'm good. I I lowered myself. I sat down. I remembered. I'm like, oh, we're talking. Maybe I want to take a seat. So as long as you
I
can
appreciate
still
it,
hear
and I
me
will.
and see me, then that's all good.
We can hear and see you perfectly, and it also gives me a chance to relax my usually terrible posture so that I'm about the same eye level here. It's good. It's good. I appreciate it. Thank you. So
course.
tell us just a little bit more about your path to being a Jewish educator and a Jewish musician. How did this come about?
So there are lots of different kind of pathways. When I finally found it, we'll kind of start at the end. When I finally figured out that this is what I want to do, everything clicked. I really had a moment of, everything that I love doing and helping other people do is one job. But I didn't know that. Growing up, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee. My father was a conservative rabbi. My mother is an incredible Jewish educator and social worker. And so I grew up in a house full of joyous Judaism, singing as much as possible, playing Jewish music in the car radio. We had some Debbie Friedman, some Craig Taubman, all of that stuff. But at Shul, because it was a conservative synagogue, we used kind of old melodies and some Karl Bach, and I didn't really know who wrote the melodies, and I didn't really know that there were modern Jewish prayer melodies being written, or that was a job that people could have. There was a song leader at my Ramah camp, but song leading then wasn't the same as it is in the URJ camps. There was only one song leader, really, and she was great, but that was something we did in the dining hall, or it was something we did in all camp Shira, but it wasn't something that happened during services. The prayers were usually very traditional, but I loved leading services because I was a small diva child and wanted to be a famous anything. Famous singer, famous musician, songwriter, pop star, Broadway actress, dancer, writer, anything. I just wanted to be on a stage singing things for people. And I started writing songs from a very young age, but, pop songs about, being famous, which I hadn't had any experience with at age 11, still haven't, but definitely not at age 11. But I started writing Jewish songs because I realized that they really spoke to my spirit. If we fast forward many years, I wanted to go on the rabbinic path and then realized that wasn't the path for me. Cantor, is that the path for me? I don't know. Jewish educator came because I went to my first New Cage conference, which is a Jewish education conference. Someone remembered that I wrote Jewish songs and invited me to play on a stage with other people like Naomi Less and Ilana Jagoda and Saul Kay. And that night they were honoring the anniversary of Kol Beseder, and like Jeff Klepper and Danny Friedlander were there. And I was this little nobody who hadn't released any music, and I got to play on the stage with them. That was incredible. That summer, I was going to go to Ramah, Wisconsin and be a song leader for the first time. Basically, I went to my first Havana Shira and everything finally clicked for me. Oh, song leader, this is a job you can have. This is a thing you can do. It allows you to facilitate, but not in a way that centers your own ego, in a way that grows the ego and you become a body of an entire community, in a way that I still get to do Torah and I get to use my original songs, but I also get to pray and lead others in prayer. It was amazing. I looked at that and I thought, this is what I want to do my entire life. And I've been able to do that. That was, I think, 9 years ago. And fast forward and here we are. I don't There's a lot in that fast forward, but that's the long version of the story.
Right, and the long version with a tremendous amount of humility to have gone from a self-described nobody to a teacher of teachers. I'm excited to get to learn with and from you at Song Leader Boot Camp coming up. Not to let my congregation know, no intention there. Clearly, this voice was not made for a stage, but there's so much to be learned, so many wonderful people to meet, so much about the prayer service that you have to teach. And I'm curious, you're somewhat ubiquitous in the Jewish world. You don't seem associated with a singular synagogue or with a singular organization, but with all of the synagogues and all of the Jewish organizations. I imagine that is a choice that comes with a number of blessings and also some challenges. And I'm curious about living in that kind of liminal Jewish space right now in the Jewish world.
I love the word liminal, by the way. It's a very like modern Jewish buzzword, but I love it so much. That's really what it is. You know, I feel like one of my roles in the Jewish community is as a bridge builder and as a connector. Like I said, I grew up in the conservative movement, so I have a background in text. I went to graduate school at the Jewish Theological Seminary, which is a conservative institution, but the education school is pluralistic. So we got a lot of different kinds of Judaism there. I was active in Romamu when I lived in New York, which is a renewal synagogue. I've done work in teaching with the Reconstructing Judaism movement. And so, and of course, I have experience doing URJ song leading and having a shir and working in Reform synagogues. And I so value the fact that Jews practice different Judaism. One of my favorite things about touring was really getting to see different synagogues do Judaism. I loved it so much. I studied sociology in college, and I think the sociologist in me comes out when I'm just observing, ooh, this is so fascinating. Why did they make this choice? This is so cool. I love hearing people's stories. And I find that now, when everything's online, we really have the opportunity to learn from each other and to beam into each other's homes. To me, pluralism is not we all do the same thing. Pluralism is having healthy parts for a fully functioning holistic body. Like the heart works, the kidneys work, the brain works, and everything's talking to each other, and everything's connected, but they all serve a different function. And that's kind of what I want to see. And even when I worked in synagogues, in a particular synagogue or another, I was still bringing the things that I learned from other places and still trying to teach and share. Being that bridge builder is something I really love to do.
And something you do amazingly well. You know, in a pre-COVID time, that was a lot of travel, right? You had your home base,
Yes.
but you were out on the road an awful lot. And March of 2020 brought that to a screeching halt. And collaborations, opportunities began to look so much different. I'm curious to know a little bit more about perhaps the chaos or the thought in those early days, but the remarkable pivot to really embracing this opportunity.
Pivot, that's the word. I'm pivoting right now. I want to lower my camera. This is what happens.
Oh
to
no,
me
you're
when
going to
I
make my
these
posture
wires
have to
here.
get better.
No, I just... Look, you're still taller than me. It's still going to work out. It's totally fine. Pivot is the word that we use, isn't it? I think, you know, another word we say a lot is burnt out. And by March of last year, I was incredibly burnt out. I was traveling almost every weekend. I would get home on a Monday or a Tuesday. I was living in a Moishe house at the time, which meant that in my free time, I ran events for Jews in my city. And so I would run events and plan for the next thing. And then on Wednesday or Thursday, be on an airplane again to the next thing. And I loved traveling, but it was too much. And already I was thinking, next year, I am going to travel so much less. Next year, I'm going to make sure that I'm only taking one residency a month. I'm going to build a life in Durham. It's going to be great. And so when my first gigs were canceled almost a year ago, I actually was filled with an incredible amount of energy. Now, granted, we had no idea how long this was going to last, but it was kind of like a pause button for me. I found out on a Wednesday that my next gig was canceled. And the next day, on Thursday, I live streamed Shacharit morning services from my Facebook page. And not to say I was the first one or anything, but I think I was the first one. I think I was just so excited, and also I needed people. A lot of the things that I do, it's because I need it. I need to be with others. I need to know that I'm in fellowship with other humans. And so going online and then starting this like Eliana Light and Friends, which is like a little kiddo show on Wednesday afternoons, and starting to just live stream myself singing Zmirot every once in a while or doing services in the morning was a way for me to still feel like I was connecting to people and connecting to my community. I had a lot of energy in the early days, and that definitely waned. And I've been learning how to take it easy on myself, how to have compassion for myself, and how to say, you know what? Global pandemic is going on. It's okay if you take a couple days and all you want to do is lay in bed and eat ice cream. Like, totally legitimate response to a drastic world upheaval event. So my mood definitely goes in waves and my productivity goes in waves, but I'm trying not to judge myself by productivity standards anymore, but more about how can I exist in the most joy and in the most service possible.
It's an important perspective. A friend posted on social media that they're absolutely sick of the pleasantries that accompany the beginning of a conversation. Hey, how's it going? I'm fine. No, come on, really. Nobody's fine right now, right? We've been lingering in this for a year. It's flipped paradigms on their head. It's forced us to think differently. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the Jewish world when all is said and done. And I think that's what I want to pick your brain a little bit about, hoping that your crystal ball somehow works better than mine does. But the reality is, being in a synagogue that I absolutely love, but we spend every Shabbat together and we don't have kind of the national view that you do. I'm curious what you see happening. I'm curious what you see happening in synagogue music writ large, that many of the exciting trends before the pandemic, God willing, will continue. And I'm curious just what's going on? What has you excited right now?
Oh, it's so interesting. I was talking to someone about this earlier today. There's like the things people are worried about, and there's just things that I hope will happen. My crystal ball is on the fritz as well, alas, but I can share what I'm thinking. There is some fear amongst synagogue folks that now that the kind of floodgates have been opened, now that anyone can basically visit any synagogue online, what is the point of having a local synagogue? If the services at Central Synagogue are the best and they have the best musicians and da-da-da, why won't everybody just go there? Well, we're actually seeing that not happen, I think. I don't know how many people were with us tonight, but I saw some people pop up from all over the country in the comments, and that's really beautiful. But it's not necessarily like we're taking them away. There are people that just shul hop. They'll spend the entire Friday afternoon from like 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. because the time differences, just going from shul to shul. That's really beautiful. Because here's the thing. If you tune into Central Synagogue from another city, it might be really beautiful services, but nobody from Central is going to bring you soup when you're sick. What people are actually looking for is community, and we have the opportunity to build those. Now, what does it look like to have some sort of system where services are shared, where there's a hybrid model? Sometimes it's go to this shul online, and sometimes it's come in person, but that the communities actually get smaller and more close-knit. More like the Shtiblech of old. That's something that I kind of dream of. I think we see that when an independent minyan pops up. Some of it is about prayer styles, but I think a lot of it is community and about living near and knowing the people that you're in fellowship with and serving, which is honestly hard when we have inherited these giant buildings from our parents and our grandparents, really, and we don't always know what to do with them, especially now when we're not gathering in buildings. In terms of prayer trends, interestingly enough, really the trend, at least that I like the most from the past couple of years, is the kind of Joey Weisenberg, Nava Tehillah healing service. We're going to sit in really tight, close-knit concentric circles and sing our hearts out, which is a really great way to spread germs. So I think part of the question is what comes next. We spent so many years, my colleagues and I, trying to get people to sing. I think in some parts of the Jewish world we look at like Christian services, gospel services, and we have a little bit of sadness. We're like, why don't we do that? Why can't we have that? And so we bring in new music, and sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't. I was asked to go different places. You with your magic guitar, it was almost like they were saying, you will save our services. You will do it. But I can't do it myself. It's got to be something that comes from inside people's hearts. It's got to be something, the reason that they're singing like that in those services is because they believe what they're saying. And a lot of us are so mixed up around what prayer is and what the point of it is and what God is and what the point of God is that we don't allow ourselves to let go, be vulnerable, and sing our hearts out. If we all did that, it would be just as uplifting as any other service. But for a lot of American Jews, there's something in us that keeps us from doing that. Part of it is just living in a world where vulnerability is not necessarily accepted, where we're seen as less than or we're seen as weak if we open ourselves up. But prayer really for me is about just letting go and recognizing that most of the universe happened without me. Like, most of it happened without me. I didn't choose to be born. I was born by an act of grace or an act of luck or something. Most of this was here before I got here and will be here long after I'm gone. All of the food I ate was grown by someone else. All of the things I use were made by someone else, right? Just this recognition that there's so much that is out of our control, and just leaning into that and saying, I feel so blessed, the things that are out of my control that I have, and God, I feel so much in grief and so powerless over the things that I can't control, right? That's what it is for me. And our job as prayer leaders, I think, is to help unlock that, because only by being able to live with vulnerability can we build the kind of world of justice and love that we want.
I love that. You know, one of the things that put fear into my heart this week as a service leader is I read the Hebrew Union College, the Reformed Seminary's reopening guidelines, what it is looking for in a prayer space for people to be safe. And step 1 was 30 feet of distance between the service leader and the nearest service participant, and no communal reading, no responsive reading, no communal singing. And that is in many ways the antithesis of what it is we hope for in a prayer service. You know, the Reform movement, this is probably an overgeneralization that is not fair to the many generations that have poured their heart and soul into liturgical innovation. But from just an aesthetic point of view, kind of has gone through the life stages, right? Grew up, went in as a teenager, wanted to be as far from orthodoxy as possible, wanted to be staid, wanted to be formal, wanted to be acceptable to its neighbors. And now that we're a little bit older, we kind of look at our parents and realize they're not as dumb as we thought they were, right? There's something to that more involved, Hasidic, enthusiastic, spiritual worship is something that many of us want to reclaim. And to be looking at a world where that's still going to be some time, even, God willing, when we can be back in person, that's a scary thing.
It is a really scary thing. And I think that's why maybe the emphasis should be not from the outside in, but from the inside out, right? Prayer itself is actually a really COVID-safe activity because it happens in here. In the same way that we respond to stimuli in the outside world, but the outside world does not actually cause our feelings, which is something that I'm constantly relearning for myself. Joy is something that wells up in me. There's this beautiful, again, spiritual song, Christian spiritual. Can I sing it for a moment? Because I'm just feeling it right now.
Please.
A familiar melody. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Right? This love that I have, this anything that I have. We can create conditions that are more conducive to allow someone to feel something deeply. We can't actually force anyone to feel anything deeply. We can just try to create more conducive conditions. But if we can do that the best we can, given the circumstances, and remind people that the power to feel and to open up and to see the wonders of the universe actually resides inside of them and has been there the entire time, right? Children are full of wonder and of gratitude, and they want to express it, and everything is incredible for them. And we lose it as we get older. I think what Jewish prayer practice is trying to do is not teach us anything new, but give us the language to remember the thing that we were born with, which was like an acknowledgement of how special the world is.
That's right. And it's a perfect segue to getting to ask you a little bit about the God Project, right? Something else that comes from within, and indeed, in our earliest formative years, maybe some of the information that we receive from the teachers or adults around us sets us on a path that does some considerable harm, if not more harm than good. What are you working on? Tell us a little bit more about it.
What am I working on? So the God Project is really a name for just like things that I do. It's not an official project, but sometimes it sounds nice to say, I'm the founder of the God Project, instead of like, I'm Eliana, I do things. So that's kind of what that's about. But I'm really interested in the way that we talk and teach about God, as I know Rabbi Emily is as well. That's how we connected. But you're right in that when we're young, some mistakes are made. But when we're even younger than that, you know, in our spiritual development, little kids don't have a cohesive idea of God, and they don't need one. It's feelings. It's mostly like a scrapbook of feelings and ideas, and little kids love to talk about God. God is this, God is that. We never really grill them on it, and that's fine. The issue is when they grow older and they start to learn more about the stories in the Torah, and we, even in liberal Jewish spaces, have a habit of teaching the Torah as if it were true, because we teach Torah stories to kindergartners, and kindergartners don't have the tools of metaphor and the concept that we can say one thing but mean something deeper. And because we've decided as a community to teach Torah stories to young children and really stop after that, then that's the idea that they get. And then as they get older, they move into a faith stage where things are black and white, where things are one way or the other way. And we see that in little kids, where they're taking things at face value. And I started this work because I had like a flash forward. I was singing a song about creation with some kindergartners, and I like had a vision of one of these kids in 4th grade learning about evolution for the first time and thinking, my Hebrew school teachers lied to me. How could they? I feel like a lot of us have that moment. And some of us grow to an understanding of God that is more broad and that is more expansive, which the Jewish understanding of God actually is. And some of us are kind of stuck in that place because our teachers never gave us an alternative. Now, a lot of the middle schoolers I know aren't necessarily looking for a spiritual awakening, but by giving them those tools and that language when they're young, they can hold on to it for when they do need it in their lives. And so I'm working on right now the learning materials for the album that I put out last May, can't believe it, called Songs About God, spelled in a funky way, but if you look me up, you'll be able to find it, where the songs kind of go through my own personal God journey as reflected in Jewish texts to show that I was not the first person to take this journey, and almost everybody who feels that way, it's like, but how is this God real? Like, the 11-year-old boy thinks he's the only person, and everybody else in the shul is an idiot. But that's not the case. We all go through it, and the more that we can talk about it, and the more that we can be vocal about it, the more that we can give people these spiritual tools for life. My goal is never to have someone believe in God with no doubts and no questions. That's not the Jewish way. My hope is to show people that there is something greater than ourselves, and we are a part of it. We are loved. We are supported. We have the ability for love and the ability for connection. And if we actually lived according to that truth that we are all connected, we could solve most of the world's problems overnight. I really do think that all of our problems stem from the idea that we forget that we're interdependent and we forget that we're connected. All of the isms, capitalism and racism and even anti-Semitism, it's dividing people. It's saying that you are less than, what happens to you does not matter to me. When in fact we know that the world is the opposite. And that's one of the only things we can say with certainty, even with certainties and quotes about God. Yod Heh Vav Heh Echad. One. That's what we have. That is the truth. And I think coronavirus has shown us that even more acutely. Virus doesn't actually care about borders in its essence. Virus doesn't care how rich you are or how poor you are. The difference in outcomes is our fault. right? The difference in outcomes is because we have decided that certain people matter and certain people don't. God can't do that. The virus can't do that. Those aren't entities. We can be inspired by an idea of a just God and an idea of a God that is one, to live in a world where we actually treat each other with dignity and respect and love, as if we are all part of the same organism, which we are. That's my main goal. And talking about God seems to be one of the ways to get there, so that's what I'm doing.
I absolutely love it, and I'm excited you've created a pocket of fans in the south suburbs of Pittsburgh. I'm excited to see this journey continue, to see the materials you put out, how we can use them with our kids here, as you're asking the key questions that not only young people, but us adults need to be thinking about as well. Eliana, I'm so grateful for your time this evening, for leading us in prayer, leading us in thought, giving us much to chew on as we enter this day of rest.
Thank you. This was so beautiful. Thank you for welcoming me into your community. I hope we get to collaborate again soon with the Holy One's help in person someday.
Amen. All right, if you'll hang out with me for just one more second, I'm now going to end our live stream by wishing a Shabbat Shalom to everyone. I'll see you for Torah study at 9, services at 8:30, bright and early with a cup of coffee in hand tomorrow morning. Shabbat Shalom.